What is going on, all you GBA type people? This is Tom. I'm here bringing you guys my Week 9 match against Danza and his Los Angeles Nidokings. Now, before we jump into the match, if you haven't checked out his channel or the TokenMinorities in general, please check out the link in the description down below. That includes Jolt, Danza, and Goldoa Dragon. All three of which are very good friends of mine and people whom I've enjoyed watching as well as playing in the GBA this season. Now, looking at the actual screen, you guys will notice this is a little bit different because we're looking at not the recording, like post-match recording screen. As a matter of fact, we're looking at a live recording from his side because, well, you guys will... If you know anything about Danza's match, unfortunately we disconnected, but because Danza does have a capture card, he was able to capture it, and we were able to get a recording of the match without it being completely lost like it was against Aster with his match. Probably, what, 2 weeks ago, I think I want to say. So I'm going to go over, we're going to start off that he has access to Palkia, Genesect, Tababulu, Hawlucha, Heatran, Florges, Crocodile, Savali, Gengar, Komodo, and Mega Alakazam. Now, Z users are going to be Gengar and Komodo, two probably of the most, I don't know, best choices I guess he could have in terms of Z users on his team. As a matter of fact, I know a lot about using Z Komodo specifically because I used it last year in the GBA as well as with my team on the ICBA. Now, looking at his team, I think the nice thing, well, one thing that Danza I think uses very well is how he utilizes his bulk in terms of what can take hits and how well he can kind of like draw out a game and how he can ensure that he has a, like, he can basically use timer as his win con. Now, if you guys know anything about me, I hate timer stall. I hate bulk. I hate stall in general. I want to play a game where like we can click buttons and I can have a match done in like, I don't know, 60 minutes, 70 minutes tops. Like, I don't want to be here for 90 minutes wanting to fucking shoot my brains out because you can't click moves. Or I know I'm not the fastest picker here in the world, but I also know that I don't play in a way that I would consider like stally. As a matter of fact, I was listening to the pick'ems for this week just before recording this, and they were talking about how I have no wish passers. Now, again, my playstyle is not to wish pass. My playstyle is to pivot, provide offense, and I want to force my offensive presence onto you and not play defensively. I don't like passive games. I like active offense. I like active pressure, not passive bullshit. That's how I know I lose myself, and it's just not the way I like to play. So, looking at his team, he does have offensive threats, things like Hawlucha, things like Palkia, Genesect, Komodo, Gengar, and Megazam. A lot of his defensive things I can see coming are things like Heatran and Florges. I think he has to bring Heatran because it's his best check to things like the Hau'oli as well as things like Scizor. But I think other things like Florges are also, you know, pretty decent checks to things like Weavile, things of that nature. And then other things that can come are things like Crook and Savali. Even Tababulu I could see being somewhat of an annoying, you know, sub-seed set. Mostly because I think he can generally with the grassy terrain, you know, seed up and otherwise break down my team progressively. A game I don't want to play, but a game that can happen. So, looking at my team, you know, the 6 I decided to bring were influenced by how I have chose to use Ho-Oh in these weeks. Obviously, you saw it last week how I was able to kind of forcibly use Choice Banded Ho-Oh to pretty much fist Jolt every time he, you know, brought in a mon. I was able to get Ho-Oh in safely and without rocks. That's kind of going to be the plan here. I don't expect rocks to be as much of a nuisance, mostly because his best setter is going to be Heatran or Crocodile or Komodo, but that's, if he's bringing that sort of Komodo set, it's not some sort of D-Dense setup set with a Z move. So Heatran could have rocks, Crocodile could also have rocks, but besides that, I mean, I think Ho-Oh can function here mostly as something that could just click Sacred Fire, if not Earthquake, if he does bring Heatran. So my first mon is actually going to be a Charty Berry Ho-Oh. It's going to be max attack, enough speed, I believe, to outpace his, I believe his Tababulu. I think Jolly Tababulu. Mostly because I think his speed tiers are a little bit, they're strange. So, like, and he has a lot of things that are over base 90, but he also has a few things that are, like, significantly below base 90. Oh, I'm sorry. This thing is set to outpace the Komodo. So, Sacred Fire, Brave Bird, Earthquake, and Roost. very, it's a straightforward set with Shardy Berry, just how you can take a rock move from something like, let's see, the Crook, or any sort of like rock coverage move, HP rock, something bullshit like that. Even Stone Edge from Tapu Bulu, I believe I could take it just based on Ho-Oh's natural bulk. Sacred Fire, like I said, across a lot of his team is going to be really a problem. It negates leftovers. If it's not Heatran that's coming in, Earthquake is always a threat to him in the back. If he does have Heatran in, if it's not, having like a balloon or something. And then Roost there just to keep myself healthy in case I need it. Next up, we have a Choice Scarf Coco. This is going to be max attack. Again, it's going to be an attack boosting nature. I believe it's set to outpace the Hawlucha. Now, Wild Charge and Dazzling Gleam, something I learned from the last time I ran the Choice Scarf Hawlucha against Aster, where I had Nature's Madness, and if I had Dazzling Gleam, I think I'd be in a bit of a better spot. But Dazzling Gleam is there just because it hits his Hawlucha the best, regardless of the fact that, I am running only 60 special attack investment. It also hits Palkia pretty hard, actually super effectively. And besides that, Wild Charge is pretty much unresisted across the vast majority of his team. And then I have U-turn there. I'm going to click that as long as the Crocodile is alive, because once that goes down, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to click Wild Charge as freely as I'd like, because a lot of his team is hit neutrally or it's hit super effectively. His two, like I said, good switch-ins are going to be something like Bulu or Komodo. But besides that, Wild Charge is pretty solid against his team. U-turn is there for pivot, like I said, and outpacing Hawlucha. Next up, we have a Choice Banded Weavile. This is set to outpace, I believe, is also the Hawlucha. But, if this clicks the right move, I'm pretty sure I can get upwards of like 50% or over damage off on whatever. Knockoff is good across Vastly's whole team because, things like Floor just don't really want to lose their item. Things like Hawlucha don't want to lose their item. Crook doesn't necessarily want to lose its item. Icicle Crash is super effective across anything that's not named Heatran. That's what Low Kick is there for, and Ice Charge is very good coverage for Hawlucha. If it has the Unburden boost with the Choice Band, I could probably knock it out after about rocks damage or a little bit of chip damage. And then it's just a very solid, backup like Revenge Killer, if not a breaker. So, again, very straightforward set. Can probably do a lot of damage, and based on how he runs his defense, could maybe even get a KO, upwards like 2 or 3 KOs. Now, next up, I'm on that I'm actually kind of glad that I got help with in terms of being built. I believe Aster built this Gliscor. It's a Spadef Gliscor with a little bit of defense investment, HP investment, and speed. It's there to outpace a max speed timid Heatran, but Earthquake, Taunt, Roost, Stealth Rock pretty much covers all of his defense. I could stop anything that's not Tapu Bulu. I can stop Floor just from being fucking annoying and wish passing. I can Earthquake Heatran. I can taunt anything, Stealth Rock, Roost up. This thing does a pretty good job at shutting down possibly a Komodo. I can get some decent damage off, but definitely is there for Floor just plus Heatran, just because I can pretty much shut down them defensively, and then I could not take a lot of damage from things like Moonblast, and if he's Calm On, I could just taunt it to stop. Same thing with Heatran. If he's Z-move, or he can't be Z-move, never mind. But if he's, if he's Lava Plume, I'm running going to be Toxic, ideally. I'm going to learn my lesson from Randy. And I can get up rocks, and that's pretty detrimental for him to get those away. So, next up we have Latios. This is going to be able to speed tie with the Gengar. But Draco, Psyshock, Earthquake, and Roost. This, obviously, the Earthquake is there for the Heatran, like you see in a lot of OU sets, for like mixed Mega Latios sets. Draco Meteor is there just for very good coverage for things like Palkia, and then even, he has double fairy with Florges and Bulu, but I think he's only ideally going to bring one. And then if I go for Draco plus Earthquake, I can knock out a Heatran if it's not running Sugar Berry, and Roost there just keep myself healthy, so I can take certain hits from things like Heatran, things like Silvally if I need to, and then I could just keep myself healthy and possibly click a move to Revenge or if not get a lot of damage off. So. And then Psyche Z, if I get down the floor just relatively low, I think Z Psyshock is doing upwards of like 65% if he's max defense. So if I get off enough damage, I can pretty much knock out the floor just really no problem. So, and then finally, we have a mon that I don't think that Danza expects me to bring, mostly because he does have a Heatran, but it's going to be Scissor. Adamant, Bullet Punch, Swords Dance, Roost, and Defog. This is actually really nice to otherwise check and shut down things like Genesect if it's not carrying Flamethrower, but I'll be able to see that with the Aqua Berry. Same thing with Florges. This thing just shuts down and then threatens out Florges. It can also set up on things like Crook if it's choice locked. Same thing with Silvally if if he has Parting Shot, or if he has U-turn over Parting Shot, I should say. I can otherwise go for Bullet Punch and depending on his type, get a lot of solid damage off. But I like the Scissor set. It's very unexpected in terms of actually being brought. So that's why I'm kind of glad that I'm able to utilize it. And the way I'm actually able to utilize Scissor since I got rid of Mega Lucario actually is kind of what I kind of intended Scissor to be for the team. You know, it can run defog. It's not ideal that Scissor runs defog, but in overall, the way I used it against Jolt and the way I ideally want to use it here is pretty important. I'm very excited to use it and see how it functions in this situation. So we're gonna go into the match. It's gonna be live comm, and I'm gonna try and fill any of the dead space with anecdotes because I know Danza did cut out a lot of the dead space in between in terms of where he or I are picking moves, and it kind of does vary because I believe there are some turns where he takes some time, I take some time to pick moves. So we'll kind of see how it goes. But we're going to start off the match here. I kind of moved it along, so I was a little bit ahead of where I guess we were like, we're a team preview, selecting Mons, and basically now we're at the beginning of the match. So he is going to lead off with his Crocodiles. I'm going to lead off with my Tapu Koko. Now in my mind here, I'm thinking to myself, if this thing is Scarfed, I don't give a damn because I'm Scarfed as well. Now we see that I set the Electric Train up first. That means that he is slower, so that is not really necessarily a surprise. But I'm going to click U-turn because it's going to do some pretty serious damage. I am a attack boosting nature, and I'm able to get a U-turn off. It does a solid 35 to 40%. And I'm going to go out into Ho-Oh. Now I almost fucking went out into Gliscor here, but I thought to myself, I think he could go for Earthquake or Stealth Rock, but he could also go just as much for a knockoff. So I didn't want to lose my Toxic Orb because I knew for obvious reasons that I was not going to get Toxic by any other means, especially if he knocks off my Toxic Orb. So I go out into Ho-Oh. I got my Charlie knocked off. Does upwards of 50%, which means he's max attack. So I don't know what his item is yet, but he's max attack, so he could be something. He didn't see Life Orb, so I guess he can be something like a Choice Scarf himself. He could also be something like, some sort of like Black Glasses or just like an Expert Belt set. I don't know. So he goes out into Silvally, as I am going to double out into Gliscor. Now, I was looking at the calcs here. Even if he's like no special attack, Ice Beam is still going to do like 88 to 100% to that specific Gliscor, so I was not staying in to take that. I'm going to go out into my Koko as he clicks Parting Shot, which we're going to see is a very common thing in this match. He's going to click Parting Shot a lot with that fucking Silvally. I go into my Koko at -1. I'm going to U-turn out into my Latios. I figured here that he was going to click a Dragon move in front of a Fairy type, so I go out into Latios as he goes for Surf, and that shows me that he's not Life Orb, not Assault Vest. He's some sort of boost in nature. He ends up being the Orb, whatever the name of that thing is. But I'm going to click Draco. He goes into Florges, whatever, as I go, and I wasn't going to click Side Shock there. I wasn't going to click Side Shock against a fucking Poliki anyway. So I just wanted to see if he actually would go into Florges. It's obvious now, but at the time I was like, you know what, whatever. There's no downside really for me to hit click Draco here because I can get out into my Gliscor. Gliscor means that I can just, threaten out whatever as he doubles out actually into his Heatran as I went out into Gliscor. I'm going to get Rocks up as he goes out into his Silvally. Now, we're able to switch out here. Again, still, I was still threatened out by the multi-type Water or the Ice Beam, and I wanted to see if he actually did have it. As a matter of fact, like as the game goes on, I find out that he doesn't, just based on what he refuses to click any sort of coverage move that isn't fucking Parting Shot or Defog. So he goes for Defog as I go into my Koko, which does give me momentum right here. Kind of, there's a lot of like cycles in this match that were very, I guess you could say, passive, but I was also kind of noticing a lot of trends in how Danza was playing. So I go out on my Ho-Oh, and I know here I could pretty much just click Sacred Fire, and I get to see what he's going to switch into. He does go out into his Silvally, and I go for Brave Bird. Looking at the calcs, I think Brave Bird did more to the Florges than Brave Bird or Sacred Fire did. I go for the Brave Bird, and based on the damage to the Silvally, I can't tell you 100% that it's max defense, max HP. Now the calc was showing me like a speedy, a little bit of special attacking set for Silvally Water, but based on the damage that Brave Bird did, I mean, obviously it's coming from a jolly Ho-Oh, but stab Brave Bird doing less than 50% to Silvally, it's totally max defense. I'm gonna go for Roost because I was trying to bait out to see if he had the multi-attack Water, or if he had something like Ice Beam. I know this thing also run Rock Slide as well, but I figured that I was faster. Based on the fact that he had to be max HP and max defense. So I wanted to see what he would go for as I went for the Roost. Either he would go second as he got this Parting Shot off on, but also what was interesting enough as well is that, which I found was a little interesting, is I could have clicked Braver there again, and I know it wouldn't have killed, but it would have put his Sylvali down to the point where pretty much anything was going to knock it out if he didn't get a Wish Pass sent over to it from the Florges. I know that's very possible for Danza, but I know that the fact that he was willing to give me more damage using Brave Bird to the Sylvali, knowing that I have Regenerator, I get back all the HP anyway. Maybe it was a misplay on my part, but also was something that I think was very aggressive and actually ended up paying off for him, which I didn't necessarily expect, but hey, listen, he did it. It worked, and I guess I gotta, give him a little props there for taking that initiative and being aggressive in a way that was beneficial for him. So he ends up going out into his Palkia through the parting shot. Now, I know enough about Danza that I know that he likes to run sub Palkia often, and based on his team comp so far, we've seen a max attack Crocodile, we've seen a fully defensive Sylvali Water, and we have seen pretty much a Florges that switched into a Latios. So I haven't seen Heatran, I haven't seen Palkia, and I haven't seen Genesect. But I definitely know that there's no like setup sweeper on his team. There's nothing like click Dragon Dance or Swords Dance. I mean, the best thing is like a Home Claws Crook. There's Calm Mind Florges. There's, well, that's pretty much it. And Shift Gear Genesect, but I know he's more of he like solely goes for Scarf Genesect. That is like his bread and butter, which granted was also mine in the ICBA, but you get my point. So the thing with his Palkia is the past 3 weeks before this, I've noticed he's run Substitute, especially against Cybertron, and then even matches before that. He's running like a subset that he can catch his opponent's switches, knowing that Palkia does have a good 100 speed speed tier, but I also know that Ho-Oh can break a sub, and I just want to get damage off to kind of see, because I think the Brave Bird damage was doing upwards of about 50% to a Palkia at -1. Now, if I wasn't at -1 from the parting shot, I would have been able to do upwards like 60-75%, 65-70%, I want to say. But the thing is, it's like I just wanted to get damage off, and I wanted to see exactly how much damage I can get off against this Palkia. He does go for Surf, which does a lot of damage, as I'm going to go for Brave Bird. Now I'm gonna kill myself here, but getting rid of Palkia means that his best offensive threat is Crocodile as well as Genesect. Now Crocodile is pretty much explicitly handled by the Glitchxcity. Now that I have my Toxic Orb up, he can have Ice Fang, but I also do have things like Scissor that could take that as well. And once I burn the Akaberry, Knockoff's not going to do much, Ice Fang's not going to do much. I'll be able to kind of see what he is. And Bullet Punch is going to be able to threaten him out if he is like a Choice Locked variant, like I sort of expected. And then, kind of besides that, I think that getting rid of Palkia earlier rather than later would be beneficial for my team in terms of my overall offense. And I know I can do that once I get it down super weak. So yes, Ho-Oh does go down to its own recoil. But besides that, I think in my mind I was looking like the Sylvali, is pretty much max defense, and I didn't quite necessarily see myself being able to knock that down with the coverage I had with Ho-Oh. Also, I didn't really want to switch anything into Palkia. Scizor especially, Weavile, I think could be a little bit more useful in the late game. I didn't want him to get behind another sub, especially because I think that's what he could have went for there. Surf would have pretty much knocked out Weavile regardless, and then besides that, Coco wasn't taking damage, Glitchxcity definitely was going to die, and Latios, I wasn't going to switch in again in case he did go for the Spatial Rend, thinking against the Ho-Oh, as thinking I would try and switch out again. So I was kind of strapped for options there, but I figured getting off damage against Palkia was better than nothing. So I'm going to go out into Coco, I'm going to click U-turn to try and knock him out as he goes out into Heatran. Now this brings me out into Glitchxcity. Now, the problem that is starting to develop with this game is you're seeing we're down to 30 minutes. It's fucking 5-6. All right. So, as it was stated in the Pick'ems game, it's that we are playing. There's almost a devoid of offense here that is threatening to the point where we're able to knock other things out. We end up getting it here to 5-5 because I'm looking at his team and he has nothing that doesn't want to take an Earthquake. I mean, Florges, if it's max defense, is going to take like 30% tops, but if he brings something like Crook, Sylvali, Genesect, I could whittle away down the Sylvali to the point where it really can't come in on more than one Earthquake, because I know that I am outspeeding him based on the fact that he's max defense, max HP. So I end up knocking out Palkia as he hard switches that in. It was a decent play for him to get off like a sack, or if I had gone for something like Stealth Rock, which I learned based on how Sylvali was coming in, I was going to click Rocks, I can just go into that, threaten me out, and then end up going for Defog, which kind of bypasses why Glitchxcity was in the first place. So I go out into my scissor as he goes out into his Genesect. I know he's going to click U-turn. It's just like his fucking bread and butter, the same way it's like my bread and butter. And he goes out into his Heatran. Again, we're getting very cyclical here, and it was pretty much at, like, I'm starting to realize how cyclical this is becoming. He is going to go into his Heatran, which always gets me into my Glitchxcity. Now, that was a crit, and that does a little bit over 50%, which means I could take 3 with the Toxic Orb boost if he's not critting me on any of them. That just means I can keep clicking Earthquake. There's no reason that he can't really do anything to me otherwise. I click Earthquake, and this does, I think, probably 20%, just based on how I pretty much know attack investment. But I also know that there's no downside to me clicking Earthquake, ever. He can only really go out into Savali. He can go out into Florges. Heatran doesn't really want to take that. And his Palkia is down, Genesect is neutral, and Crook is just not really going to want to take more than 1 Earthquake, because that is pretty much his only non-devoid parting short of offense here. So I could have just stayed in there with Glitchxcity again and clicked Earthquake, but I'm still fearing Ice Beam or some sort of like multi-attack water, because I don't want him to surprise me with that as I stay in, go for Earthquake, and then it severely knocks out my Glitchxcity, especially if it's not at full HP. He parting shots, he gets out in his Crocodile. I know I'm fast in this. I know that U-turn was, you know, my play there. My U-turn should have been my play here, but I was getting to the point where I didn't want to play this fucking cyclical game where I'm going for U-turns, not doing all that much damage. I didn't want to go to and we're already at 20 minutes and like nothing is really happening here outside of our 2 like tier 1 Ubers dying. So I go out into my my scissor here as he clicks Flash Cannon. I expected U-turn again, but I also know that he is just going to keep clicking Flash Cannon, as I know I can roost because I took that first one. I could take a second one unless he, I mean, if he got the Spadef drop on the first one, then I wouldn't have been able to. But I know here that I'm just able to kind of roost off that damage. I don't have U-turn, which I guess is kind of funny because last week I could have won with Swords Dance Scizor, and this week I could have been very beneficial for me to have U-turn over Swords Dance, especially with the Heatran. So, you know, a little bit of like flawed logic, but hey, listen, I had an idea with the Scizor, especially because I knew that I had the opportunity to be able to knock out the Heatran over the vast majority of my team. Now, I end up going out into my Latios aggressively, and he's going, and he ends up staying in. Now, I didn't see an item here, but I go for Roost as he goes for Toxic. I actually kind of expected him to switch there, and what he's actually going to end up doing is he ends up switching on this upcoming turn as I click Earthquake. Now, this was kind of shitty because I could have clicked Earthquake on the first turn as he went for Toxic, and I've been at half HP. And instead he goes out into Florges, and as I click the Earthquake, I show that I have it because obviously I wanted it for the coverage for Heatran. This does actual jack shit, so this means he's also max defense. So that means that like a Z-Psyshock would not be doing all that much damage. It'd be doing, like I said, about max 60% for the highest roll possible with the Psyshock. Don't have Calm Mind, so I can't really set up, but against his team, it's not really physically possible. Here is the thing, and I guess it's meaningful that the match here kind of slows down. Fucking clicks Wish. You see the timer? He fucking clicks Wish. I know what he's gonna do here. I don't care that I know what he's gonna do here. He's gonna fucking pass it out to his fucking Silvally. There's one fucking thing that I asked Danza not to do to me during this fucking match, and that was timer stall me. Alright? The motherfucker just passed a goddamn Wish to a goddamn bulky mon that can't really do anything to this team. His whole team can't do anything to my team. Alright? He has a Palkia that's dead. He has Genesect that's choice locked. He has a fucking Silvally Water that has shown nothing but Parting Shot and ends up showing T-Bolt in the match, and then he ends up telling me that he has fucking Thunder Wave and Rock Slide for Ho-Oh. And then he has a Florges that has Wish, Moonblast, who cares, Heatran, Lava Plume, Toxic, and a Crocodile that shows Knockoff. Alright? Here, I mean, I'm not, okay, I'm not saying that I'm flustered at this point, I'm just saying I'm fucking annoyed, because at 12 minutes, you decide to make the most passive bullshit move you possibly could. And like, at that point, I'm sitting here on my DS, and I don't think we played super late, but we played, you know, relatively later on the night because it's just when I think he and I were both available. But the thing is, it's like, dude, you realize that the timer is going down. It's fucking 5-5, and like, the one thing I asked not to do to me was timer stall. And the motherfucker just passed the Wish to a mon that is just so stupid bulky. And like, I understand that the timer is a viable fucking move and it's a viable strat, but the problem is, it's like, dude, I didn't ask for any of that shit, right? I know you're trying to fight for playoffs here, but like, on the same token, like, your team is so like fucking devoid of offense. It's remarkable that, I mean, he has games where he's like able to manifest his offense. Like you look at his game against Goldoa, and it was like he was able to just like blow him out with Komodo. But then you have white games like Aster, where you can just tell that both of them just fucking didn't do, like Aster actually did, but Danza and him are just like we're so content in playing this like bullshit passive game. Now, in terms of the game that I'm playing, like in terms of my team, I don't see any fucking passive bullshit. I mean, we're talking, I have a defensive Gliscor, I have a defensive Scissor, and then I have Choice Band of Weavile, I had offensive Ho-Oh, Scarfed Coco, and a offensive Latios. And yet he has this bullshit defensive nothing molasses of a team that is just so devoid of any sort of like breaking potential. It's fucking remarkable. So he passes the Wish off, right? And then he goes out into his Genesect. As I'm out in my Coco against the Silvally, right? So he gets the Parting Shot off again. Now at that point, that pretty much confirmed to me that he wasn't Ice Beam, he wasn't any sort of water move. He was some coverage bullshit that I was unaware of, right? Now I end up going for Wild Charge here. The reason I do that is because I was looking at the calcs, and the calc automatically goes to, I believe, a Rash Nature for the Genesect. He ends up being hasty, which means that it turned an automatic kill based on the damage that he was at, which was probably below 88%. The minimum roll for a hasty nature, the minus defense nature, I might have my Rash and hasty natures mixed up, but minus defense was an automatic KO with Wild Charge. I expected it to kill because I was snotty, so it was a plus attack nature. It doesn't. He ends up going for Flash Cannon, he knocks me out. Now here I pretty much seceded. I said, fuck it, you're going to win 4-5 because, and I actually messaged him on Discord. I said, you know what? Fucking enjoy your win, dude. Like, I didn't fucking ask for this. I didn't ask for you to, I asked you specifically, beginning of the match, do not timer stall me. And look what you fucking did. And he goes, and his thing was like, oh, I'm sorry. It's not what I intended. I'm like, well, look at what you fucking did. You wish past it, 10 minutes left in the game. Yes, it's of course what you fucking intended on doing. So I know that knockoff is not going to actually affect this Silvally all that well because it obviously you can't knock off the memory, and it kind of it acts like it's one of the plates that Arceus holds. It looks like T-Bolt. It gets the para. I didn't fucking care at this point. I took Sword Stance because I'm going to switch out. There really was nothing there that I could go into. Ideally, I could have went to Latios, but it's just it. The Coco's dead. My Ho-Oh's dead. I pretty much seceded to losing 4-5. Yeah, that's basically what I'm going to do. He's going to Parting Shot out and do his bullshit. We're at 5 minutes left. And he's going to win 4-5 because he can't fucking win. He can't click buttons aggressively. He can't... Like, he used his defense in a way that was so effective that actually bored me to fucking death. And I wouldn't say I was like bitter like when I was after the Randy match. I think I was just more overall fucking bored because we're talking about turns that he and I both played super long, but we're talking about a team on his end that was just so boring, right? And I'm just going to call it what it is, all right? So he ends up winning 4-5. He gets a +1 differential, which, yeah, he gets a win, which puts him in a position to overcome Cybertron, but it puts him in a way that he actually ends up not being able to, like, he has to really, really win his last 2 weeks, and Cybertron has to really, really lose in the last 2 weeks. So... I'm sorry, actually last week, because this is week 9, so whatever. Alright, the point is, we DC right here, 3 minutes left. Fucking perfect. So, there's not even any potential for me to come back. I just at this point, fuck it, you win 4-5, and that's kind of the game right there. I've never been more bored during a Pokemon match than this match right here. I've never been more frustrated by a Pokemon match due to the hollowness of offense by my opponent's team in this match right here. I've never been more dissatisfied playing someone in this match right here. All right, I got blown out by Randy because he's a lucky son of a bitch, but then I get this match where I'm just like, when he passed that wish at 10 minutes fucking left, I said, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So if my season wasn't over against Jolt last week, it's definitely over now, and I can't be more happy because this was just this was a suck of fun, personally, just based on how I like to play my matches and how I like to conduct myself and how I like to approach matches. I asked him very nicely, don't timer stall me. Exactly what he did. So, congratulations, Danza. You are still alive for playoffs. Enjoy this 1-0 win against me. I did not expect this to be our first match, although I'm not necessarily surprised because you are you. Hopefully, you do get into playoffs from this. I think I played relatively well. I think I took risks that didn't set you up for your offense, but I also didn't play passively to the point where you and I were both doing nothing to each other. I think that the Coco was a calculated risk to take out the Genesect. Same thing with the Ho-Oh to attempt to take out Palkia. I think the parting shot in some cases was a liability, but it also allowed you to live things that you probably wouldn't have had lived in other cases. So it is what it is. He beats me on the back of Bulk, which is, I guess, his name in the game. But if I see this type of fucking match in the playoffs, I'm probably going to just be like, seriously? Like that? What can I learn from this? Playing Danza is boring. That's pretty much it. So hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll see you guys in my Week 10 match against Cybertron.